Ciao, jewelry making friends. My name is Joey Balistreri, and today on my work table I am making 3 gorgeous, whimsical, just sweet, spring-inspired earrings. And I'm so happy to be back working and filming again. I've been really sick. I've had to go to urgent care, and I may have to pause to cough. This is my second video that I've filmed today, and I'm trying to get back to work. I hate not being able to work. I ended up sketching a lot and designing a lot, but then I feel like I'm anxious to get back to my work table. So here I am. I'm going to do my best to get through. I'll give you a quick little peek at the 3 different earrings. I have a sample of each one made, and I'm thrilled with them. I'm so excited. So I made this little cat earring out of pearls and seed beads and a little crystal rondelle spacer, and I found this lovely Etsy shop that had the little cat glue-in ears bead cap. So I have one of these little earrings made. It's a little bit of an unusual way to make an earring, but it totally works, and it's so adorable. And honestly, if you didn't want earrings, this would make the sweetest little pendant. You could do a very delicate chain and not make a second one, just use it as a pendant. So have the little cat there. Put this little cat right here. And then the center one here is a little hearts of spring umbrella. I found these sweet little lightweight little umbrellas on Amazon, and I just went into an old bead mix from my stash that had some hearts and some red and black beads, and I used a little scrap of chain and created this shoulder duster little hearts of spring, you know, spring showers earring. And I purposefully designed it so that the umbrella is hanging low, so that when you're wearing it, you can see the little heart design on the top of the umbrella and see the detail. It has a little glass handle, and it's just so lovely and whimsical and just flirty. I just thought it was just so adorable. So there's that one. And then that same little Etsy shop had those lovely little bead caps in bunny ears. So I did a little bunny version, and he has his little cottontail right there all wrapped up and ready to go. So as I said, this is a little bit of an unusual way to make an earring, but it's quite easy and really fun once I figured out what I wanted to do with it. So let's start with this little bunny, and I'll show you how I did him. So I am using 20, let me pull in my wire and show you. I am using 22 gauge bead-along round German style wire, and I cannot remember if these were available in other metals. I love gold, so I ordered the gold. So I'm doing matching wire, but you could mix metals if you wanted to. So the way I'm going to start is just with a little piece of this 22 gauge wire, and just as always, you want to warm it. And what I did is, you can't put the wire through the entire bead and do a loop at the top, you know, through your entire thing of beads, because this little, let me show you what these look like. This little bead cap is a glue-in. Can you see that little gold stem goes right down into the bead with some glue. So that's how you get your little bunny ears bead cap. He's so cute. He's just so cute. But you know, being able to do that means you can't get a wire to come through the top of the bead. So I had to figure out what to do with that. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how I organized myself. I put his little body on, and then I put, for his little neck or a little collar, this little crystal rondelle spacer. And then I did, this is a 10mm bead, this is an 8mm bead. And then that tells me I need to pull this wire back in enough so that my bunny ears can glue into the top. So it's just really, you're going to set yourself up just to get a measurement, and once you've done that, just hold it all together and just give that wire a bend. And so now you know where you need to start gluing. Now I like to mirror my earrings, so I did this one's little cottontail on this side, so I'm going to do this one on this side. And before I glue or anything, I'm going to go ahead and trim away this excess wire and make my little spiral there so that I don't have anything in my way when I start gluing. And I'm just going to guesstimate. I'm going to have a look at my first spiral that I did and just guesstimate. I want it to be like a, you know, nice round bunny's little cottontail. And I think I'm going to use my little bit larger pliers because I want to get a nice round spiral going here. And I really like my bent chain nose pliers for a spiral. And I know you probably have seen spirals made dozens of times. You just grab it and gently and slowly just push that wire toward your piece. Now here's where I want to put my bead back on. I'm going to try to get them as close to the same as I can. And so here's where I'm going to, I want to leave enough space on my spiral to kind of fold this around the bead, you know, shape it around the bead. So I'm going to turn it the opposite way that I did the other one, just gently maneuvering that little bunny's cottontail. And you know, before I glue, because once I put the glue on, I want him to set up. And I'm just gently, I mean, this is 22 gauge wire, so it's quite forgiving, and I'm just gently getting his little cottontail. I'm going to give it one more little bit of a turn. The first one is always easier because you just make it, and the second one, when you're doing earrings, at least you're trying to match. So you have to take a little more time on the second one. But as I said, these make adorable pendants. If you have little girls to do gifts for, these make adorable little petite necklaces, a little pendant for a petite necklace. And I take care of a little girl in the summer, and her name is Sonia, and I just love her. And she loves bunnies. So I'm thinking that I might have to do a little bunny for my little Sonia girl. So at this point, just check this before I glue. And at this point, when I'm happy with it, and I'm actually not, see how I need to shape this a little bit closer. Let me bring in my nylon jaw pliers so that I don't scratch my pearl, and just give that wire just a little encouragement to go where I want it. It doesn't have to be perfect now, because once everything is glued, you can still do a little bit of shaping, but I don't want to put stress after I have glued everything. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. That looks pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more of a tuck. I have to fuss with things. It's what I do. And then I used this Loctite Ultra Gel Control Super Glue for this, and it worked fabulously well. You could also use E6000, but it takes a little bit longer to set up, and because this is gel, it doesn't dry right away, so you do have time to make little adjustments. And so I'm going to make sure that I get my glue flowing just a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit at the top of the bead where the wire is coming out, and then also on the tip, a nice bead on the tip of that wire, because when I start stacking my elements, I'd like to get a little bit of glue on everything. Be careful not to get glue on, super glue on your fingers. So you can also use your pliers for this if you want to keep your fingers out of the way. And at this point, I'm going to add another little drop of glue inside that crystal rondelle spacer. Just make sure that everything is coated in glue, because I don't want the earring to come apart once I have, oh dear, I dropped it and it has glue on it. Okay. I have it. And so I do like this, glue for this reason, because it doesn't dry so fast. So if something like that happens where you drop it, or you lose a hold of it, you do have a little bit of time to set things back in place before it dries. And then I'm going to put another little drop. Can you see? I know it's clear on a clear pearl, but it is just a little tiny drop. And I'm going to make sure there's a front and the back to these bunny ears. So since I have my little cottontail mirroring my other bunny, I want to make sure that I have the right side of the bunny ears. And I'm just pushing that in the hole, and I'm just going to put a little pressure with my fingers and just make that bunny stay together. And now, before I really set him to dry, I still have a chance to move things around. I just want to pull his cottontail over to exactly where I want to see it. It's a little abstract because I want to see his tail. And I'm just going to let that dry. Now, what I did on the others, after this dried, I turned it upside down and just put a tiny little bit of glue there as well to make sure it was secure. So I will go back and do that. But that little bunny earring is completed just that simply. So can you see there's the back of his ears and there's the front. There's quite a lot of detail on these beautiful little bead caps. I just love them. That is whimsical and elegant and sweet for spring and summer. I just absolutely love those little bunnies. Okay, so let's move on to our little cats, because it's similar, but we have the little tail on the cat. So I did exactly the same thing, except I left enough wire here to add some seed beads, and you can barely see it because I made such a tiny little bent back loop on the end of the cat's tail. I really wanted it to stay in scale of everything else. And also the cat's little bead caps have a back, and they also have a front to their ears, if you can see that detail. So it's essentially the same thing. I'm going to take another piece of that 22 gauge wire, and I'm just going to do my stack first, just simply for a measurement, just to see where I have to put that bend in my wire. And on this one, I used an 8mm pearl on the bottom, and one of those beautiful 6mm Potomac pearls on the top. And then I just need to figure out the space, how much space I need for that pin in the bead cap to go all the way in. And it is, let me switch hands and make sure I'm holding it all together. And it is, pull it back just a little bit. Right about there, I can make that bend. Okay, perfect. And now I'm going to pull this away a little bit, because on the cat's tail, I want to have a little space. I actually use my pliers to make that little curve. So just want to get a little space there. And I also want to remember that I'm mirroring. So I just made that little bend, and it's going to go, let's see, front to back. It's going to go that way. Perfect. And so same thing. I'm going to come in. Let me put my big pearl on first. And there I can have a look and see how his tail is going to look. And actually, I think it looks great. And then same thing, I'm just going to get a little drop of this gel super glue coming out, and I'll put a little bit at the base where the pearl is, and then another nice little dollop on the top of that wire. And just what that does is when you start sliding your pieces on, everything gets coated with glue on the inside. I'm trying to do this one with just my fingers. Okay, and same thing again. Add just a little bit more glue on the inside of that crystal rondelle spacer, and another little drop at the top of the wire. my beautiful Potomac pearl. And now his little ears can go on. Another drop of glue right on the top of the pearl. You don't want to do too much because when you push the bead cap, the little ears on, you don't want to squish glue down on the pearl where you see it. And then just check that you have the right side, if you're mirroring like I do, that you have the right side of the little ears facing forward, and then just hold them together. This takes a few minutes. It just takes a few minutes to like really bond, and then you really need to set it. So I actually should have done the cat first because this needs to sit a little bit before we create his tail, and I can show you how easily I did his tail. And then also I want to just check and see if I need to clean up any glue, and it looks like I do not. It looks like it's pretty good. But see how this wire still moves a little bit. So before I work on his tail, I really just want to let him dry. So let me do that. Let me set him over here just in the position I want him, and let's let him dry. And I'll set the little seed beads and this aside, and then we'll come back to it. We are going to do our umbrella while we're waiting for that glue to dry. Put the lid on that, and we'll make our little umbrella. These are so whimsical but sweet and fun and flirty and lightweight. I just think they are absolutely adorable for coming out of winter. So I have this little umbrella. Let me show you. I have the little pack. I found these on Amazon, and I will link them below. But I chose the little hearts, but they came in this little set. And look at all the beautiful patterns. Some of them have a little gold ball for the handle. This one has a little pearl for the handle. And I found a second little umbrella charm, which I thought was so sweet for spring. That's all gold with a little jump ring. And they're just, I just dumped them out. They're just so sweet. When you're just in the mood for a little whimsy and a little fun and not so serious of a jewelry project, these are just so lovely for charms or earrings or making little pendants. I mean, they are just, I'm just in love with them. And then there were just so many patterns. The little hearts are so sweet, and there's these little red, I guess, dogwood blossoms, and look at the cherry blossoms. I mean, they are just adorable. I just love them. So I'll put a link to these as well in case any of you are interested in some spring rain umbrellas. And then these came in all of these different colors. These have a little bit of weight to them, but these would make beautiful little charms on a bracelet or a charm bracelet, or, you know, a little cha-cha bracelet. So I just wanted to share that. You know, I feel like that's kind of my responsibility when I find something really good, really sweet, to, you know, pass it along and share it with all of you. So I always try to do that. Okay, so what I did on these is really simple wire wraps, but on this I am using 24 gauge wire. I am using this 24 gauge gold round bead-along wire. And the reason is because my beads were so very small. And then what I have here are 3 little links of chain. This is that knurled stainless steel chain that we had in our bargain bead box in January. I think it was January, yes. And it has this little diamond faceting on both sides of it, and it's just lovely. I mean, it's so pretty once it is turned into the earring. It's quite small this way, but I cut 3 sections of 3 links. So there are 3 little links on each one of these sections. And even though this earring is dainty and small, it is very easy to do. So I'm just going to start by wrapping a wire wrapped loop. And on this design with the chain, this particular chain that I'm using, I do have to remember before I close my wrap my loop and close it to add in the chain, because this chain is not openable. It's a soldered chain, and so I need to remember to do that. And I'm also making really small loops. If you noticed, I'm staying on the end of my plier. So I'm going to just open this up and add in my first little 3 links of chain, and then just finish my wrap like we normally would. It's very small, so I'm not going to do a messy wrap. I'm just going to close it and just do a nice, neat, tidy. I did not leave myself a lot of wire on this end. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I wanted to get back to work so badly. I love my work. I love what I do, and being sick is just such a disruption. Okay. And on these, because it is very petite, I didn't worry about my loops until the very end when everything was connected and I held it up, and then I could really have a look and see if I needed to turn the loops to face a different way, and that worked quite well. So I'm going to do the same thing on this earring, just repeating that little pattern. I went into this little stash that I purchased at a thrift store in South Florida, thrifting, just a bag of check glass hearts and flowers and drucks and leaves, and all in reds and blacks, and I think I paid $5 for it. And when I need a little design element like this, it is just wonderful to have found something like that. So same thing, just remember not to close up your little loop until you add it in. Another little piece of chain. Let me turn it this way. So this design is 3 pieces of chain just in between each of the stations of beads. And of course I did these, you know, I was looking at the scale of my little umbrella charms, and so I did them quite small, but you don't have to work this small. You can do a larger bead if you like that. I really like dainty, petite jewelry, and so for me this is great. But I know some people, if something is this, it feels tedious to them. They don't enjoy this type of work. So I do though. But you can, as with any design, take the idea, take the inspiration, and make it your own. That's what I always hope when I share an idea or a design, or, you know, something that I've found that I think is lovely, is that people take it to their own creative space and do something on their own with it. Okay, I got it that time. Okay, that's the first little section, and now it's another little piece of wire and another simple, normal little wire wrapped loop, 90-degree bend. And see how I'm staying on the tip of the pliers, the same that I did on the other loops, just to make them small. For me, that makes the piece look good when the scale of everything is coordinating, the scale of my loops to my beads to my charm. I think it looks good that way. Oh, this one. Attach it to the bottom of this one. Turn it in my hand so it's facing forward. And I'm also trying to be consistent with the number of wraps, so I've done 3 on the other sections, and just get in there and make sure that they're coiled nice and neatly next to each other. This one needs one more wrap. And trim away that little extra bit. And now the last little bit of our pattern, one of these little check glass lentil beads and this little red glass bead. Just a little stack of these little tiny disc beads. It's so lovely. And again, wire wrapped loop, and we're going to add that last piece of chain in. So this is where I have the habit sometimes of talking or getting on a roll, and I close up my loop and then realize, oh, I didn't connect it, and it's really too small to use a jump ring, so I didn't want to have to use jump rings. So what I found is once I connected everything and I held it up, then I could easily go back and put my loops in the direction, you know, the orientation, so that the heart is facing forward and so that the little handle on the umbrella is facing the way I want it. And because they're on chains, they're going to spin and dangle in the ears, so it won't make that much difference, but I know, so it's just the way that I work. And even though it's tiny, I want to make sure there's nothing sticking out. And so our second little component is ready, and now these little umbrella charms have a simple loop at the top. Now there is some glue attachment where the little acrylic umbrella is attached to this wire, so just be very gentle. It opens, can you see? It opens nicely. Just be kind to it. Don't be too aggressive because it's a very sweet little charm. And just, oh, you know, before I attach, before I close it, I just want to see if my umbrella, yes, it looks like it's hanging. The little handle is hanging the way I want it. Try not to open it a second time if I don't have to. And then we'll get our second little ear wire and turn it. And add our chain in. It's a very easy pair of earrings to make with basic skills, just, you know, a wire wrapped loop and just really basic skills. So this is, I know it's hard to see that way, but this is what I had to do on my other ones. My heart is not facing forward, so on my other one I just took a little look at it, and then I just need to use 2 pairs of pliers and just really gently just turn those loops so that it's oriented so that my heart is facing forward. Do this one as well. And because, you know, it's such a fine gauge wire, it's very easy, and you can also go in and tidy them up. I didn't do it when I was wire wrapping because I knew I was going to have this step. That is perfect. So this little pair is done. Aren't they the sweetest little umbrella hearts of spring? I think I'm going to name them. They are so sweet. I know they're long and dangly, so I'll put some pictures up at the end of the video, but I am just thrilled. That is just like the sweetest little piece of jewelry for a day when, you know, you just feel a little bit whimsical. So let's finish up our cat. I think he feels dry enough that I can work on his tail. So what I did the tail with is these round 15O beads. They are gold lined rainbow crystal, and if you can see on the finished one, I just was really trying to bring in the color of the cat's face into his tail. I like the contrast, so that was the design, is just to really match with my seed beads the best that I could. Let me put him here. And I used 20 seed beads, so that way I don't have to worry about the measuring his tail. And of course I'm not going to need all of this length, so I'm going to remove that. And I'm just going to count another 20 seed beads, and that should give me a matching length. So just string them right on his tail. These 15 O's did fit on this wire, but I had to skip over 1 or 2, but most of them fit. As you can see, they're tiny, but it's not too bad to get them on there. And 20. So I have my 20 seed beads, and again I want to pay attention to my orientation because I want my tails to be mirrored and I want the little ears to be facing forward. And so at this point, I just want to remove all this wire and just leave a tiny, just enough to basically fold it in half. It's, I'm going to throw that away so it doesn't get mixed in with my seed beads. It is, I started by turning a little loop toward the cat and then trimming a little bit of it because I really just want it to disappear. You know, I want it to look like a cat's tail. And then I just came in and just trim that little bit off and just push the seed beads down toward him. The seed beads don't have to be super tight because I'm going to gently use my round nose pliers to shape his tail the way cats curl their tails around the front of their bodies. So it is a little delicate work here, but just go slowly. It's 20, what did I use on this? 22 gauge wire, so just go really slowly and you will get it. Let me come back to these pliers, and all I want to do is just fold this over. It's not even a loop, it's a little stopper. I just want to fold it in, and that is perfect, just perfect. Can you see? It's not even a loop. I do want to make sure that there's nothing sharp, but so tighten it down, but it is really, really tiny. Okay, so I'm going to start with my finger, and let me look at my other cat. Hold on. Clean up my mat a little bit. Let me look at my other cat so that I can duplicate what I did here. And so I just want his tail to match the other one as best I can. So you can do it with your finger and kind of get it going. You want to be careful not to break your seed beads because you really would have to start all over if you broke your beads. But what I did on my other one is I came in very gently. Do not lock down with these, and I just used my pliers to make that round in his tail very gently. You can see that I'm losing it a little bit because I'm not putting pressure. Just very gently forming his little tail. I want it to match the other side. So play around with it and, get it so that it looks good to you. The first one is quite easy because you just do it and make it look good. And the second one, you have a little bit more time that you need to fiddle with it because you want to match the other one. So pull it out a little bit. Like I said, be very gentle. Don't break those seed beads if you're using your pliers like that. Very cute. Very, very cute. I'm going to tighten up his tail a little bit, and I want to round it a little bit more. So I would take a few minutes and just play with it until I have the shape I like. Let's see how we're looking. Very cute. Very, very cute. Oh my gosh, I love those little cats. And then so like I said, just for security, and it does feel very secure, but just for security, I'm going to take and get just a little bead of glue coming out, just a tiny bit, just ever so tiny bit, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue around that bottom seed bead where it meets the pearl, just for security, because when these are on your ears, you may reach up and touch it, or you don't want it. But this little cat is done. Aren't they so sweet? And then the last step is just to add the ear wire. I'm going to let him dry a bit before I do that. But we can have a look at our little bunny. He's ready to have another little drop of glue put on the bottom of him as well, because the rest of him is dry. So it's just for the excellence of work and just to make sure things are secure and nothing's going to come apart. So, I mean, just ever so tiny bit, but it just, they are so sweet. I'm just crazy about my little spring earrings. I'm going to let those guys dry and lay our little finished ones here. Clean off my work table a little bit. As you know, if you've watched any of my other videos, I work so much better when my work surface is clean. So these are my 3 little sweet little spring inspired earrings, bunnies, kitties, and little heart umbrella earrings. They are so cute, and this was so joyful, and especially after being out of work, being sick for the last week, I'm so happy to be back creating and filming and talking to all of you again. So thanks so much for watching today, and I hope everyone is well and having fun on their beading mat. Ciao, jewelry making friends.